In the middle of the night, I climbed into James' bed. He woke up with a start and said, "Matthew, what are you doing here?" I lied without batting an eye. "The heater in my room is broken. I'm cold." When I woke up, I found myself in James' arms. His arm was around my waist, and his thigh was also pressing on me. When I looked up, there was his sharp jawline. This wasn't the first time I made an excuse to come over, but every time I woke up in the morning and saw his face, I was still stunned by it. James likes to hug something when he sleeps. Before, it was a pillow. When he sleeps with me, I become his body pillow. I secretly tried to wriggle out of his arms, but he grabbed me back. He buried his head in my neck. "Don't move. Sleep a little longer." In the morning, his voice was a bit hoarse. His breath hit my neck, and I felt as if I was burned. This position made it seem like we were a couple who were reluctant to get out of bed. Every time at this moment, I thought it would be great if James were gay. Unfortunately, he's straight. I closed my eyes and enjoyed the warmth of his embrace, just indulging for 10 more minutes. The first time I saw James, he was pinning someone against the corridor wall and beating him up, yet I was unconsciously drawn to him. He had thick eyebrows, deep-set eyes, and a high-bridged nose. At the moment, his expression was fierce, looking rather menacing. "Dare to renege on your debt while playing on my turf?" The man being beaten was black and blue, and he shakily took out a few pounds from his pocket. He snatched the money and said, "Get lost. Grow some sense next time." The man fled in a hurry. Suddenly, he looked up at me. His eyes were cold, sharp, and narrow, making me feel a bit of pressure. I was dragging 3 large suitcases and, with a brave face, said, "Excuse me." He casually leaned against the wall and reached out his hand to me. "New roommate. Nice to meet you. I'm James." The young man's finger bones were prominent. He had just beaten someone, and there were still bruises on his hands. The new roommate didn't seem easy to mess with. I thought silently and shook his hand. "Matthew." When I dragged the suitcases to the room, I vaguely heard a voice from behind, "Look so cute." We didn't have much interaction, until one day when he knocked on my door while drinking in the living room. He lazily leaned against the doorframe and said, "Wanna play together?" "Thanks, but I'd rather not." He cut me off, raising an eyebrow slightly. "Do me a favor." I thought about the way he beat someone up that day and gave in. When a bunch of people at the table saw me, their laughter paused for a moment. Then they greeted me enthusiastically. "You're James' roommate, right? Come on over." I'm a bit of a loner and not good at dealing with social situations. When I was a kid, my mom was really strict. She had total control over everything from what I wore to who I made friends with. I basically didn't have any close friends around me. So in crowded places, I always felt uncomfortable. A glass appeared in front of me. James put his hand on my shoulder. "Can you drink?" I shook my head. James poured me a drink. "Give it a try?" I stared at the pink liquid in the glass, which was glistening faintly. That was something I'd never get to touch at home. Drinking always went with games. They put a bottle in the middle. The person the bottom of the bottle pointed at would ask a question to the one the top of the bottle pointed at. The questions they asked were pretty daring. "Are you still a virgin? How often do you masturbate?" This time, it was my turn to ask. The bottle cap was pointing right at James. Everyone's eyes turned to me, with expectant looks. It seemed they wanted to see what exciting question I could come up with. I was a bit nervous and held it in for a long time before speaking. "Do you like eating greens?" The atmosphere suddenly turned cold. I regretted asking as soon as the words came out, but I just couldn't ask some lewd questions to someone I'd barely met a few times. Suddenly, James led the way and started laughing heartily. His hearty laughter was very contagious. Everyone started laughing. "James, your roommate is really funny." The atmosphere heated up again. James was sitting across from me, laughing so hard that his face turned red, clutching his stomach. My own face was flushed and burning hot. After laughing enough, his dark eyes fixed on me, his eyes curving. "Yes, I do." I knew he was answering that question, but my heart suddenly skipped a beat. After that, we got closer. He would occasionally invite me when he was having a drink. I wasn't really used to that kind of scene, but I couldn't say no to him. I listened attentively to what they said and quietly watched him, who was in the center of the crowd. I just couldn't take my eyes off him. Maybe afraid I'd get bored, James would occasionally toss the topic to me. Most of the time, our lives were worlds apart. 1. My life is a routine of apartment, school, and supermarket, while his WeChat Moments location can shift from Scotland to Southampton. I was poring over research papers in the dorm, while he was familiarizing himself with every bar in London. James was like the very definition of freedom. I once asked him, "Don't you have to attend classes?" He pulled out his class schedule with only 2 classes a week. I fell silent. The local British food was so awful that I had to buy groceries and cook for myself. Once, I was making braised beef brisket with potatoes, and it must have smelled really good. The aroma lured James into the kitchen, and he put his arm around me. "What are you making? It smells amazing." The warm breath he exhaled hit my neck. It was warm and moist. My heart skipped a beat, and I asked casually on purpose, "I made a bit too much. Want to have some with me?" After asking, my heart started racing. I was afraid of being rejected and subconsciously tried to find an excuse for myself. "If you don't want to, that's okay. I'd like some. Share with me, will you?" "Sure." While having a meal together, I blushed and got all flustered from his flattery. "This is so delicious. Matthew, you're amazing. I'll call you Chef Fong from now on." James could always easily stir up all my emotions. After the meal, he rushed to do the dishes. I sat there, staring spellbound at his broad shoulders. The sunlight shone on him, and I could just look at him like this, do nothing, and look at him for a lifetime. "Matthew, come over and help me roll up my sleeves." I was jolted out of my daze by his voice and walked over to him. I bent down to roll them up for him, and my fingers accidentally touched James' muscular arm. It was warm just like him. After this meal, our relationship seemed to get a little closer. I often accidentally cooked too much food and invited him to have some with me. Later, as the mealtime approached, James would come to the kitchen on his own, looking at me expectantly and asking what we were having for dinner. He would even buy groceries in advance and come to help me out. After we were full, he would hold me in his arms and say, "Matthew, I really want to take you home and make you my little wife." I knew he was just kidding. "Sure, if you marry me, I'll marry you." He was amused by me and said, "So obedient, huh?" Then he volunteered to do the dishes, muttering to himself as he did, "Wonder which girl will get such a bargain in the future." That night, he knocked on my door. "Matthew, want to watch some exciting movies?" I thought of something. My face turned shamefully red. What did exciting movies refer to? But I nodded firmly, and I followed him to his room. He had bought a big display screen. The movie started. It was a thriller. I was a bit disappointed. I'd actually seen it before, but I still pretended it was my first time watching. I asked him, "What's this?" He said mysteriously, "Something that gets your adrenaline pumping." He watched the movie while I stole glances at him. At the scariest part, he suddenly startled me. Facing his handsome face that suddenly got close, I instinctively let out a terrified scream. He quickly covered my mouth. Don't make noise." His palm was large, warm, and dry. When he looked at me, there was a triumphant smile in his eyes. Being so close, I could feel his breath, carried the pleasant scent of shower gel. I wished there could be more of this moment. So after it ended, I didn't get up. "Can you sleep with me?" I grabbed the corner of his shirt and stared up at him. James chuckled. "Scared? Call me brother and I'll think about it." "Brother." He ruffled my hair roughly, as if petting some cute thing. "Matthew, you're so obedient." After lying down, neither of us spoke. The person I liked was lying beside me. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would jump out of my chest. In the darkness, I suddenly grew bold. "James, can I hug you?" His voice sounded a bit unnatural. "Don't do something so cheesy. I'm afraid I'll have a nightmare." I wasn't lying to him. After realizing I had a crush on him, I had nightmares quite a few times. In my dreams, I confessed my love to him, and after he rejected me, he blocked me, or he would say to me with a cold face, "You're disgusting." Thinking of this, my face paled a bit, but I felt an even stronger urge to hold on to something. In the darkness, I whispered, "James, I'm gonna hug you." James didn't respond to me, so I took it as his acquiescence. I summoned up my courage and put my hand on his waist, pressing my face against his back. I was holding him loosely. He could break free with just a little effort, but he didn't move. Under my arm was his warm body, and the smell of him filled my nostrils. I closed my eyes and slowly leaned against him, relaxing my body. The next day when I woke up, I found myself in his arms. It was like a dream. James was still asleep, but I was shamefully wide awake. I almost fled to the bathroom in my own room. After that, I started finding all sorts of excuses to get into his bed. The quilt's still wet from being washed. The humidifier's broken. The heater's out of order. Night after night, I took his acquiescence as consent and, step by step, tested his limits, taking advantage of his indulgence towards friends. Once we got closer, we'd lie on the same bed and chat at night. In the dark, he was quite talkative. That professor is way too into interaction. He always calls on me in class. And yesterday, I drank too much. One of my buddies brought a girl he just met back to the dorm. He's got a girlfriend back in our country who he's about to get married to. What a jerk. British food really sucks. I'm so sick of fish and chips. I want to go back home. I miss Mongolian hot pot with sliced mutton. Let's have hot pot tomorrow and eat sliced mutton. Really? Matthew, you're the best. Day after day, I'd wake up in James' arms, but sneak back to my own place before he woke up. I couldn't help but keep looking at him. I'd fantasized about countless scenarios, from confessing my feelings to him to the possible success or failure at the end. Would he accept me, or just push me away? If he did accept, how would people around us view our relationship? I don't care, but would he feel the same way? A foreign girl suddenly moved into the empty room next door. Her boyfriend often came to visit her. If she hadn't been so loud at night, I would have welcomed them. After warning them twice with no effect, James got furious. He rushed straight to the door and started pounding on it. Get out here. Are you two like dogs in heat? Can you keep it down? I quickly opened the door and saw him tussling with the foreign guy. That was the second time I saw him beating someone up. James pinned the other guy beneath him and punched him in the face, blow after blow. The foreign guy, on the other hand, punched James in the back. The foreign girl next to them was trying to break it up, wrapped in a bath towel. My heart skipped a beat and I called the front desk. Eventually, the apartment security kicked the foreign guy out. At 2 in the morning, I was applying medicine to James. There was a huge bruise on his back. Looking at the dark mark on his smooth skin, suddenly, I felt a pang of heartache. I couldn't resist and blew gently on that warm skin. James stiffened for a moment, pushed me away, and shot up to his feet. What are you doing? Stop doing weird stuff. I heard that blowing on it like this would make it hurt less. I'm going back. Time to hit the sack. He put on his clothes and left in a hurry, leaving me there with the medicine. On Friday, James suddenly messaged me. There'll be a fireworks show in Lancaster tomorrow night. Wanna go? I was stunned. This was the first time he'd invited me to hang out. Is it gonna be a group thing? No one else. Just us. If you're in, send me a message. I'll book the train tickets for tomorrow morning. Just us. Those 3 words made me secretly delighted. Sure. I scrambled to pack my luggage for a spontaneous trip. That night, I was so nervous that I couldn't fall asleep for the first time. The next day, I went to the train station with him, sporting dark circles under my eyes. On the train, I yawned while replying to him. James pressed my head onto his shoulder. Sleep if you're tired. The smell of him actually woke me up. I closed my eyes. As we were about to arrive, the guy across from us suddenly started making a phone call. He was cursing in Cantonese, and it was really foul. Damn it, there are 2 guys sitting across from me. 1, sitting so close together on the train. They have no shame. If he had only cursed at me, I would most likely have swallowed my anger. But he mentioned James. He doesn't know anything about James at all. What right does he have? What right does he have to curse at James? A fit of rage welled up inside me, almost beyond control. I stared coldly at the guy on the phone. Just before getting off the train, I cursed in Cantonese with the foulest words I could think of. He looked utterly astonished. I gave him a glare, then grabbed James and got off the train. James couldn't understand Cantonese and tilted his head, looking at me curiously. What's wrong? I've never seen you so angry before. I forced a smile and shook my head at him. It's nothing. It's best if James doesn't know anything. When we arrived in Lanka, we happened to come across a pride parade. Many same-sex couples had rainbow stickers on their faces and were kissing passionately right on the street. Looking at that scene, I suddenly felt a twinge of envy. Their love is out in the open, unlike mine, which is like a rat in the gutter. James suddenly asked, "Are you gay?" I was stunned. I don't know where I got the courage, but my mouth moved faster than my brain. If you are, then I am. I started to regret it as soon as I said it. This sentence was way too obvious. I silently lowered my head and avoided looking at him. James didn't answer, but I could feel him looking at me. Under his scrutiny, I felt like I was being tortured. After a while, I finally heard him speak. "What did you just say? I didn't catch it." I was extremely disappointed inside, but I forced a cheerful smile on my face. I said, "Let's go watch the fireworks together tonight." Okay. The fireworks were grand and magnificent, but they disappeared in a flash. At the most spectacular moment, I looked at his focus profile. My lips moved slightly, and I silently said the words, "I like you." James seemed to sense something and turned to look at me. "What did you say?" I sighed inwardly. I said, "The fireworks are beautiful tonight." After watching the fireworks, he dragged me to the souvenir shop to pick out gifts. As he picked, he mumbled to himself about who this was for and who would like that. James was always surrounded by friends. He was nice to me, and he was the same to those friends. After struggling for a long time, I finally asked that question. "Why did you only come to Lancaster with me to watch the fireworks this time?" James' movement of picking gifts paused for a moment, as if he was thinking for a while. Then he earnestly counted my good points. "You're easygoing, not fussy. You can go anywhere, eat anything. I can drag you to watch a movie in the middle of the night and you won't get mad. You have a good temper, cook delicious food, and you're willing to listen to me without getting bored." He praised me so much, but not a single word was what I wanted to hear. James just relied on the fact that I liked him. I asked him jokingly, "I'm so good to you, how are you going to repay me?" He turned around in surprise to look at me, as if he had discovered something interesting. "Matthew, you're actually asking for repayment?" Then he moved closer to me. "Come on, what gift do you want? I'll get it for you on the way, bro." I looked at him with a complicated expression. Sometimes, I thought he was such a blockhead, but then I was afraid he was just pretending. James was so good at reading people. Could he really not tell? I silently looked away and pointed at a doll that looked a lot like James. "I want this. You still like playing with this? It looks like a dog I used to have." The next day, before we left, James suddenly suggested getting some bread to feed the seagulls. He excitedly dragged me to the beach, but when he took out the bread, not a single seagull showed any interest. James got annoyed and started ranting at the seagulls. I was amused, but then a bold idea slowly came to me. "James, why don't you feed me instead?" "I'll definitely respond." He was taken aback for a moment. I put my hand on his shoulder, bent down, and licked the breadcrumbs off his palm one by one. James froze. "Matthew, you..." I watched his expression calmly. Surprise, disbelief, unease. Fortunately, I didn't see disgust, so I let out a sigh of relief in my heart and looked at him. "Taking pity on you, I'm giving you some attention. Are you still going to feed me?" He threw the bread into my arms and rushed away. I lowered my head and followed James, eating the remaining bread, stepping on his shadow with every step. I suddenly felt a bit tired. Maybe it's because every time I cautiously probed, James' reaction would always pour a bucket of cold water on me. The cold water extinguished those unspeakable fantasies of mine. It was like in an instant, I lost all my enthusiasm. So after returning from Lanka, I started avoiding him. James called me several times to go drinking with them, but I refused. Before closing the door, he asked reluctantly, "Why? The midterm exam is coming up. I need to review." He gave me a long look. Okay, actually, I wasn't lying to him. The midterm exam was indeed approaching, and I really did want to get a high score. At night, I also no longer found excuses to climb into his bed. When I really missed him, I'd hug the dog he gave me. One night after the midterm exams, James knocked on my door again. I opened the door and saw him with a bruised face. My first feeling was still heartache. "What happened? Have you finished the exams, top student?" He leaned against the doorframe, grimacing in pain. "Just got beaten up by my brother. Could you help me put some medicine on?" I finished. I let him in. This was the first time he'd come to my room after my 1-month unilateral Cold War. He took off his shirt, sat on the chair, and obediently let me apply the medicine. "Why don't you ask why he hit me? Why? We're half-brothers. He always thinks I stole his dad, so when he gets drunk, he comes to beat me up." This was the first time he'd talked to me about his family affairs. "Well, you're so good at fighting. Why didn't you fight back?" He laughed at that. "You also think I'm good?" I didn't fight back because I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I applied the medicine in silence, trying to be as gentle as possible. All done. Suddenly, James grabbed my wrist, looked up at me with a pitiful expression. "No blowing on it today?" I was stunned. Why was he asking this all of a sudden? Took me a while to reply to him slowly. No, and this action is kind of strange anyway. Okay then, James said with a hint of disappointment in his tone. After the medicine was applied, James still lingered and didn't leave. You didn't come to sleep with me even after your exams. I couldn't figure out what kind of straight guy trick he was pulling again. I hung my head and said nothing, but James walked towards my bedside on his own. Suddenly, I remembered something. There was the dog he gave me on the bed. I wanted to put it away, but it was already too late. He had already seen it. You'd rather sleep with this thing than come to me? It's just that the heating suddenly started working. Fine, then my room's heating is broken. Let me stay the night, will you? With that, James started crawling into my bed. It was the first time he had stayed the night in my room. Maybe I had been too easygoing with him before, and suddenly avoiding him made him unhappy. He pushed the dog he gave me aside. What are you staring at? It's so late. Go to sleep. I silently turned off the light and huddled in a corner. He turned around and hugged me like a pillow again. Why have you been avoiding me these days? His voice carried a bit of resentment. It's nothing. I moved a bit to the side. Matthew, even if you don't tell me, I can guess. My heart started pounding wildly again. What did you guess? He said. I'm not telling you. After that, our relationship eased up again. He always came to play with me, and when I cooked, I'd share some with him. At night, he'd skillfully come to my room and get into my bed. We talked about all sorts of things, from the economy to politics, and then to what pets we'd raise in the future. James said he wanted to raise a cat, the kind that looks cute. When it gets sulky, it gives me the cold shoulder, but it can be easily coaxed out of it. I said, I want to get a golden retriever. They're friendly and gentle. When you're tired of chatting, just go to sleep. Well, it really seems like the best kind of buddy. That night, James asked me to have a drink, and I said yes. This time they were playing Texas Hold'em. I had a pretty good hand and kept raising the stakes. In the end, it was just me and one other guy left. Someone nearby was saying, playing like this, be careful, you might lose everything. Hearing what he said, I couldn't help but look at James. Even if I might end up losing everything, I just really wanted to see that final card. So, I pushed all my chips onto the poker table. Alan won. The opponent hesitated for a moment, then gritted their teeth and called. Alan, the last hole card was turned over, but it wasn't the one I wanted. I lost. I was so close, so very close. The other guy got so excited that his neck turned red. He cheered and celebrated while I just stared blankly at that card. After the drinking session ended, I saw a really cute girl call James out. I silently went back to my room. I was kind of absent-minded when reading the literature. That figure still didn't show up before I went to bed. I gave a bitter smile. So I struck out in the casino and didn't get lucky in love either. After thinking it over, I still didn't lock the room door. In the middle of the night, I felt someone slip into my bed, bringing in the cold air from outside. Half asleep, I mumbled, James? Yeah. Why are you so late? Been waiting long. One of the people I was playing with confessed to me. Even though I had guessed it, my heart still sank. Aren't you curious if I accepted it? His question was like a hook, jolting me wide awake. Stubbornly, I retorted, I don't care if you tell me or not. Are you mad? I didn't say anything. Instead, I turned my body towards the wall, leaving him with only the back of my head. I didn't agree. My heart, which had been hanging high, now dropped heavily after hearing his answer. I asked him why. James smiled and said, it just doesn't feel quite right. In the darkness, I couldn't help but probe. So what kind do you like? He didn't say a word, as if he was thinking. Took so long that I thought he wouldn't reply to me. Then, his unhurried voice sounded. I'm not telling you. It was this answer again. I felt a bit frustrated. Fine, don't tell me then. After that, we got along as usual, in a friendly way. The surprise came one afternoon. James was playing League of Legends on my computer while I was reading a book beside him. Hey, where did the system put my pentakill screenshot? He mumbled to himself as he rummaged through the folders on my computer. Secret. What's this? Hearing the name of that familiar folder, I was suddenly shocked. I quickly stood up, trying to stop James. Don't, but he had already clicked it and stared blankly at the NSFW video covers filling the screen, as if he was shocked. This situation was really bad. Sorry, I was just trying to find the pentakill screenshots, James said, his voice tinged with some apology. I snatched the mouse and closed all those messy pages. My hands were shaking as I did it. James looked at my flustered actions and asked, "Do you like guys?" I knew I'd confess my sexual orientation to him someday, but I never thought this day would come so soon. Came so fast that I wasn't prepared at all, and I dared not meet his eyes. I didn't expect him to accept it. I just hoped he wouldn't hate me, at least for the sake of our friendship. Don't say anything to show your disgust for me right now. Is it hard being gay? I was stunned. Was it hard? I thought of the strange looks the boys in my high school class gave me. I thought of my mom slamming my diary into my face and screaming hysterically, "Matthew, you're the biggest failure of my life. I should have never given birth to you." I thought of my silent crush on James. I recalled the me who had always been so cautious and secretive. It's okay, I guess. I lied to him. Anyway, however tough this path is, it has nothing to do with him. Things are different now. People are probably much more accepting. The atmosphere got a bit chilly. Don't get the wrong idea. You're still a great friend of mine. Soon after, James leaned over again. "Hey, so what kind of guys do you like?" I looked up and met his crafty eyes. I murmured in my heart, "The kind of guy you are." But all I said back were 4 words. "Not telling you. You're so stingy." Soon it was New Year's Eve. James tried to drag me to drink with them again, but I refused. "What's up this time?" He put his arm around my shoulder, his breath hitting my ear. It was way too close. Ever since he found out about my sexual orientation last time, instead of keeping his distance, he's been even more casual with some of his actions. Maybe he's being considerate of my feelings, but I'm the one who has feelings for him. When I'm with him, I feel more and more unnatural. I subtly pulled his hand down. "Nothing much. I just want to be alone." Sometimes, being in a crowd makes me feel even lonelier, especially when I'm no longer satisfied with just looking at James. I get jealous when he has a good relationship with guys and drinks with them like buddies, and I'm even more jealous when he gets along well with girls. But he's just so popular that everyone likes to hang out with him. So I'd rather not watch. I pushed him out of the room. "You go have fun with them. I just want to be by myself for a while." "Okay then." He ruffled my hair. After James left, I was alone in the room again, celebrating the Chinese New Year in a foreign country. I wanted to send New Year greetings, but I didn't know who to send them to. After my mom was disappointed in me during high school, she unilaterally cut off all ties. "You're just like your dad, an ungrateful wretch." She couldn't accept that the child she had raised to be so obedient since childhood could have such deviant thoughts. And after my parents divorced, my father remarried. Besides the first few years of contact, all that was left in other times were the cold numbers transferred to my bank card. Each member of the family was living their own life. It wasn't bad not to disturb each other. I put my arm over my eyes. I might as well take a melatonin pill. Amid the noisy commotion outside, I started snoring away, but I hadn't slept for long before James hauled me up. He powered me on right out of my bed. "Matthew, it's almost midnight. Don't sleep. Get up and come set off fireworks with me." He dragged me to the rooftop of the apartment. There we were, 2 grown men, shivering in the cold wind, holding heart-shaped sparklers in our hands. The effect of the melatonin hadn't worn off, and my head was still dizzy. I asked James, "Why did you come back?" "Thought you might be lonely." "What, am I bothering you?" He tilted his head and smiled at me. I shook my head. The drowsiness was dispelled by the cold air. To be honest, I was quite surprised. James lit the sparkler in my hand. I had no idea where he bought it. With the sparkler in my hand and fireworks in the distance, it actually felt a bit like the festive atmosphere. Maybe it was because my head was too dizzy, maybe it was his return, or maybe the fireworks were just too beautiful. At the moment when the sparkler was about to burn out, I interrupted James, who was chattering beside me, and stared into his eyes. "James, I think I like you." Like a firework that had burned out, I put it all on the line, just to see that hidden card. I looked up and stared at him without blinking. I was only looking forward to a response. James's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "I'm serious." He froze, as if he didn't know how to respond. At that moment, I seemed to know the result. I hung my head and watched the sparkler in my hand burn out little by little. "It's okay. Just forget I said anything." Just as I was about to get up, James grabbed me. He tossed the burned-out sparkler in my hand and gave me a new lit one. In the darkness, the burning heart-shaped sparks shone especially brightly. "Don't just forget it. How about we give it a try?" I jerked my head up. James was smiling at me, his eyes curved, just as alluring as when I first had a crush on him. I swallowed hard, and my mind suddenly cleared. Okay, that hidden card was revealed, and this time, James didn't let me lose. When we were going back to the room, I didn't know who made the first move. James grabbed my hand and pinned me against the wall behind the door. Matthew, have you ever kissed anyone? I swallowed, my voice hoarse. No, neither have I. Wanna try? He leaned in, and I closed my eyes. A soft touch landed on my face, then slowly moved from my face to my lips. The moment of contact, my mind was filled with nothing but a loud buzz. With the most primitive innocence and shyness, the heat spread all over my body. Our palms were sweaty, but neither of us wanted to pull away. James buried his head in the crook of my neck, his voice a bit hoarse. I'm gonna go wash up. Wait for me to come back. After he left, I was still a bit dizzy and just froze in place. This was a scene that could only appear in dreams, yet it was happening in reality. When he came back again, got into my bed, and held me tightly in his arms, I finally felt it was a bit more real, but I just couldn't fall asleep. His warm breath hit my neck. My whole body was tensed up, and my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I quietly covered my chest, trying to make it be quieter. Above me came James' voice, tinged with laughter. Matthew, you're as stiff as a pole. Don't be so nervous. I'm not. I turned around and buried my face in James' chest. But then I heard his overly loud heartbeat. Someone wasn't doing much better than me. I smiled but didn't expose him. When I woke up in the morning, James was still asleep. This time, instead of secretly slipping out of his embrace, I stared at his face, quite openly. Only after I'd stared my fill did I get up, satisfied. Before I could even get up, James pulled me back. He opened his eyes, a mischievous glint in his dark eyes. Trying to sneak off and do something naughty behind my back again? I was stunned. When I came to my senses, my face flushed bright red. Who's gonna do something naughty? Dare you say you've never done it? I fell silent. Stop fooling around. Let me go. But James just wouldn't let go, and his hands started to wander. We're together now. Don't be shy. I was experiencing James' naughty side for the first time. He made me kiss his face and then, with a wicked thought, made me beg him. When I refused to call him darling, he whispered husband in my ear. My face was burning red. Only then did he let me go and kissed me on the cheek. Let's go have a full English breakfast. I know a place that's really good. After we got together, James rarely went to drinking parties. More often, he accompanied me to the supermarket and around the campus. When I was reading research papers in the dorm, he'd sit on my bed and play games. Aren't you bored? He looked up at me. No, not at all. Now I can see you whenever I look up. James was like a kite, yet he wound the string around my hand, coil by coil. On weekends, he'd drag me out to have fun. We couldn't help but kiss on the white cliffs. Foreigners passing by would friendly whistle and wish us to be together for a long time. For a long time, we'd said a lot of sweet nothings to each other, except promises. That kind of thing was too precious. I dared neither ask for it nor give it. I still hadn't forgotten what James said. Let's give it a try. Maybe we still hadn't made our relationship official. One day, I suddenly asked him, how's the try going? James seemed a bit confused. Try what? That night when we set off fireworks, you said we should give it a try. He got it, hugged me and kissed me. After kissing enough, he whispered in my ear, Matthew, I like you. James and I hung out for half a semester, and the final exams were coming up. He'd been having a headache lately over his homework. He had a total of 5,000-word English assignments for 2 courses. Although he had a month, it was really enough to trouble him. But I had already found the references and set up the framework early on, and was almost done with the writing. So, as the deadline approached, seemed like we had switched roles. He was sitting in front of the computer, pulling his hair out and looking miserable. I was leaning against the headboard of his bed, playing games on his phone. Every now and then, I could see James typing away like crazy. I thought he had finally found the relevant references and could write out the answers. It was much later that I found out he couldn't write a 5,000-word paper, but he easily wrote 10,000 words in a love letter to me. With only 2 hours left until the assignment was due, he finally finished it. James was like a wild dog off the leash. He picked me up, pinned me down on the bed, and started kissing me like crazy. That's enough. I pushed his face away, my breath a little ragged. Not enough yet. This time, I just couldn't push him away. The next day, he had marks all over his neck and insisted on going for a drink, refusing to wear a turtleneck sweater. I grabbed him and said, "Are you crazy?" He hugged me, his eyes filled with resentment. "You won't let me come out of the closet. Can't I at least claim a bit of my own sovereignty?" A long time later, I came across a post online. What should I do if my roommate has a crush on me? There was an anonymous answer in it that got over 10,000 likes. The answer was over 10,000 words long. Only 100 words were about the trouble of being liked. 3,000 words were complaining about why the roommate was always avoiding him. 3,000 words were about being happy to make up with the roommate again. The last 4,000 words were showing off their love. "He's so cute. I just want to kiss him to death. He cooks so deliciously. I have something you guys don't have. Haha. I really like it when he sits on my bed playing games. I can see him as soon as I look up, and I can hug him by taking 2 steps. His body is so soft and it feels so comfortable to hug him. He helped me apply body lotion." There was a chorus of condemnation in the comment section. I thought it was a sincere question, but it turns out it was a trick to make us single people suffer. After reading this, I think the poster is even gayer than his roommate. Same here. Apparently, in the UK, even steel pipes are bent. I took the post and asked James, "Did you write this?" He blushed and avoided looking at me. "I'm not telling you." I kissed that duplicitous mouth. Soon, James took the lead. After graduation, we booked tickets to go back to our country. I held his hand and said, "The road ahead will be tough when we get back. We might even end up in a hopeless situation." He kissed me and said, "Then we'll swim in the swamp. Matthew, it's okay. I'll be with you."